Hey everybody, this is my 20-gallon open-topped office tank, and I just got finished doing a little bit of basic maintenance to it. I didn't bother with the before and after with the water change. Wasn't really much of a point. The glass was dirty, the water got changed, not a whole lot of difference between the before and the after other than the glass being wiped down and the tank being topped off. But I did want to talk about what's going on in the tank a little bit now that I'm done my water change. The main reason I did the water change was because I recently treated it with Chemiclean to kill off the red bacteria, the red cyanobacteria that was growing in there. I have also wondered for the longest time what that really thick mat of green stuff is. I've always thought it was some kind of cyanobacteria. It never really looked exactly like algae. It never really behaved like algae, but it also never behaved like cyanobacteria. It didn't like come off in sheets. It didn't smell bad. The Chemiclean treatments seldom had any kind of reaction with it, and so I've always kind of wondered about it. And in this case, you will see that the rock that's growing all over has a little bit of that reddish stain left on it. So the the Chemiclean actually killed off all of the red cyanobacteria that was growing in the tank. I know that red stuff, of course, it comes out on camera looking almost like a purple color, but that really is cyanobacteria. I know that, and I know the Chemiclean does a good job killing that off when used in proper dosages. I had to sort of double or maybe even triple dose the tank to really kill it off, but it didn't touch that green stuff. So I started doing a little bit of research, and I found out that Blackbeard algae comes in many colors. I never knew that you could have green Blackbeard algae, and I really think that's what that is. The way it grows, the way it spreads across things. I even get sort of little clumps of it that will develop on the bottom and on the edges of rocks and stuff, and over time it just sort of covers surfaces. So I really do think that's a species of algae. I think it's Blackbeard algae, but you will notice how it's not completely covering the rock anymore, and it was before. So down here in this cave, you can almost just about make it out. I did actually grab a little flashlight here. We'll see if we can't scare the daylights out of my little clown Pleco in here. Well, yeah, there it goes. Now, you see that little bit of movement back there? That is my little clown Pleco. And he does a pretty good job earning his keep. Keeps the tank pretty well scraped clean. You can see how algae-free a lot of the surfaces are. But then you've got that surface that's covered in that green, thick, matted-looking growth. But you'll notice that the only place where that really green, thick, matted growth really got a hold was also where the cyanobacteria was. And I've said this before, once that cyanobacteria really gets to covering a surface, all of your scraping type fish, your plecos, your algae eaters, any kind of sucker type fish, they don't eat that cyanobacteria. So once that covers a surface, they'll stop scouring it, and that will allow the algae to get hold. If you see these surfaces, they're already clean because they never really had any of that red cyanobacteria growing on them in the first place. And so that little clown Pleco made do with cleaning all that stuff while ignoring the red rock that had, cyanobacteria growing all over it. And because it wasn't scraping it, it allowed for that fuzzy green Blackbeard algae stuff, whatever that stuff is, to grow over it. So now that I've killed off the cyanobacteria, the Pleco is starting to work on the rock again, and it is slowly but surely cleaning that stuff off. So I know the argument can be made for trying to wipe out the cyanobacteria once and for good. My regular viewers know that I do the cyanobacteria treatment, the Chemiclean treatment. In a few of my tanks, I do it as often as twice a year. But I've gone over this many times. I fought and fought and fought in the past trying to eradicate the cyanobacteria. I'm just never going to do it. I don't care about it anymore. It's just something I deal with in the tank. A couple times a year, I have to do a little bit of a treatment. and it gets the tank cleaned back up and looking good. So to me, that's not a big deal. It's not really an issue. It costs me very, very little money, and it's just not a hassle. It's not much more complicated than when I have to do a water change anyway. So doing that twice a year, that's easier than struggling and battling and, you know, stressing and trying to get the cyanobacteria out of there. Just not worth it to me. So I did want to point that out, though. I did want to show you the very clear difference between when the fish doesn't have to worry about the cyanobacteria and how much more effectively they'll clean your surfaces, as opposed to once that cyanobacteria gets a hold and starts growing over stuff, the fish will really stop scraping on it once that cyanobacteria gets on there. They do not like it. So in addition to that, I wish my little Episto would come out and say hello, but it's kind of freaked out. It's still pretty skittish and shy. It won't even come out when I feed it. It will come out after I feed, provided I put the food in the tank and then just go sit down, you know, in front of the computer or whatever. I can look over and I'll see it come out and feeding. But as soon as I stand up or start moving around, it goes and hides again. So it's probably going to be a while before we really get any good solid video of my little Episto in there. But you will notice all those little guppies swimming around. You might even be able to notice a bunch of babies. They're really doing a good job at hiding in the floating vegetation there. The Episto does eat some of them, I'm sure. But my female has been dropping babies everywhere in here over the last couple of weeks. And today, I scooped a bunch of them out while I was doing a water change, and I put them, well, they're not in it yet. They're downstairs sort of acclimating, but I'm going to put about 20 of those little guppy fry in Butterbean's tank, in my sort of formerly brackish tank. And we'll see what happens. I don't know if Butterbean's going to eat them, or if they will just become tank mates, or what, but there's going to be a whole lot of baby guppies in Butterbean's tank here by a little bit later this afternoon. So make sure you're subscribed and you won't miss that or anything else. You never know what I've got coming up. Not really much more to talk about with this tank. Like I said, the water level had already gotten down a couple of inches just due to evaporation. So I pulled a couple of more inches out and then topped it back off. Nitrates, I did want to mention that. I tested the nitrate level in the tank during the before and the after. And as I suspected, the nitrate it was getting up there. It was definitely reddish. I don't know how red you would call it, but it was definitely not orange anymore. So I did the water change. I tested again, and it is now sort of in the orange, very clearly around the 20 parts per million nitrate. So my hopes that the thicker or deeper sand bed might have some sort of denitrifying effect. I didn't have too great of hopes for it, but so far it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. It will take a great deal of time for it to establish. It could take up to 6 months to establish a good solid bacterial colony in there. If we really are going to get some kind of denitrification going on, it could take quite a while for that to even happen. So I haven't given up hope yet, but I never had a whole lot of hope to begin with, because it's just not really that deep of a sand bed. You really need a good 4 or 5 inches to have a good deep sand bed to get the denitrification process going. And this is probably pushing 3, maybe. If I'm lucky, I might get 3 inches deep out of that. So again, don't have a lot of hope for it, but you never know. We'll see. So again, make sure you're subscribed and you won't miss any of the updates on that or anything else. So thanks for watching this one. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you real soon on the next one.